The M54C Assault Rifle Mark II is probably the most common gun used in RMC14 because it is really a jack of all trades, it's bad at nothing, and excels in pretty much every type of engagement. It is highly versatile, it is the most moddable weapon in the game, at the most customization for whatever fits your playstyle or what you want to do in this operation. This gun uses 10x24 caseless ammunition, which is also the most common bullet type in the game. You'll have these ammo crates shipped down to you on the regular, meaning that you can refill ammunition, even including the AP variety, fairly often. 10x24 ammo is used by pretty much every gun in the game, from anywhere from the MK1, the MK2, the heavy assault rifle. It is the battle rifle, it's used very often. When I put the gun in my hand, any person who is trained with rifle, aka Rifleman 1, will actually have proper stats with it. If you try to examine the gun on the ground, it'll look like this gun will literally shoot behind you, which it almost borderline does if you are untrained. However, in my hand, with no attachments at all, the one-handed accuracy is not very good with a 0.8 multiplier, meaning that you can literally miss bullets on Xenos right in front of you, because I don't know exactly how accuracy works, but that's just how it works. But the main thing here is that the scatter is abysmal. The Mark II assault rifle is not really a gun intended to be shot with one hand. Even fully modded to be useful in one hand, it is still going to be inaccurate, so we're not going to really cover the weird play styles with this. All Mark IIs also come with 2 attachments built in, so as I just showed right here, the stats still look a little questionable. That's because the folding stock is well folded, so we can unfold it. All Mark IIs also come with a grenade launcher attached, so whenever you pull this out of the vending machine, you'll have a grenade launcher with no grenades in it, and a folding stock that is folded. Once you actually have the gun in your hand, to unfold the stock, you can just press the number that it gets associated with at the top or left side of your screen. Shift X also does it, but I think you actually have to literally rebind that one because it just doesn't work. It tries to swap your hands. Anyways, we'll unfold the stock. We get a pop-up saying that is unfolded. The sprite will physically change. You'll see the stock is, well, extended. It doesn't really look like a folding stock, but it's a 2D sprite. You can't really tell. Anyways, once you re-wield it now, we can see our minimum scatter is almost pinpoint accurate. Our actual accuracy is fantastic. This is a very, very accurate rifle in terms of bullets actually hitting, but the scatter does get fairly high. Just to show you, I will put in a magazine, and since it says it only takes 4 shots to reach maximum scatter, your first bullet will be pretty accurate. It won't have all that much deviation from your crosshair. However, even with this minimum deviation, it is very possible to miss your target. So I'm only standing about 4 tiles away. At this range, I'm going to have no issue hitting this target. But however, if I spray, we'll hit that 15 degrees maximum deviation very quickly, and we'll see that bullets can even start missing at this range. It's not terribly inaccurate, but we can do much better, and what I'm basically saying is that a unmodified assault rifle is really missing out on its full potential, especially if you have the grenade launcher attached and you don't even bring grenades. But before we get into attachments, there are 3 magazines available for the MK2. You can basically get an infinite amount of the standard 40 round magazines for it. They're called the M54C magazines. There's 40 shots in this. Since each one of these bullets actually does 44 damage, and this gun shoots at 4 bullets a second, to an unarmored target, you can actually reach 179 DPS. You can kill or crit a Xeno. There's a lot of variations in this game as to why a Xeno will not crit. Different levels of warding pheromones will not exactly have a perfect time to kill, so I'm not going to cover specific time to kill numbers because there's a lot of variators in this game. Xenos can have temporary buffs to have more armor and that you might not be fully aware of. They can be getting healed, they can be getting they can have an overshield that you definitely can't see from like fruits and stuff, so time to kill is never consistent in this game, but the 179 DPS is just true on an unarmored target, regardless if they have warding pheromones or an overshield or whatever, as long as they don't have additional armor from like a Valkyrie. For 10 points as a rifleman, you can then purchase 2 different types of magazines. You can also get these for free from Rec or the like extra munition supply, but these are in very, very high demand, both of these, because this gun is so common. There is a 60 round extended mag for it that shoots the default bullet, so the 44 damage of bullet against unarmored targets. So the 40 round mag actually has 1760 damage total of potential in it if you land every bullet on an unarmored target within effective firing range. And in the 60 round mag, of course, since there's more bullets, has 2600 640 damage total. That is a lot of extra killing power without having to reload, and you can get this assault rifle to have 0 scatter while fully spraying, so you can really run down Xenos with pinpoint accuracy. And of course, like most weapons, there's also an AP version of this gun that has the capability of only doing 33 damage per shot. However, this 33 damage applies to literally every Xeno in the game except fortified defenders, and I think even fully defended Hedgehog Ravagers will still take that 33 damage. So that means AP ammo, and this is true across the board, is worse against unarmored targets because the raw flesh damage bullets will do more. So if you're shooting an unarmored target with a AP of this gun and hit all 4 shots per second, you can do 132 damage per second, meaning you're losing out on almost 50 DPS against unarmored targets if you're using AP. Well, it's 40 damage, not 50, but whatever. You are losing out on a decent bit of potential by shooting an unarmored target. However, you could do that same DPS to any Xeno in the game. So the Queen, a Defender, a Ravager, a Praetorian. AP is really good against those highly defensive Xenos, but it's also worth mentioning that Xenos like Burrowers, Warriors only have 20 armor. I think even like Dancer Praetorians only have 20 armor. Maybe they have 25. Whatever. If a Xeno has 20 armor or less, which is most of them, like Vampire Lurkers have only 20 armor as well. The standard bullet will do 33 damage against a 20 armored Xeno. So in most cases, the Mark II is actually, you don't need to swap to AP. Even against like a 25 armored Xeno like a Queen, you're only losing a tiny bit of damage for a significantly more common bullet, and then you could take the extended mag and just keep mag dumping the Queen for those extra 20 bullets. It's entirely up to you. AP has its time and place, obviously. It's probably, I mean, it kills the most important Xenos quicker. That's what's good about AP, but all Xenos need to die eventually, and somebody having higher damage, more bullets, that's the real decision here you have to make between the extended and APs. You want to have the upgraded magazines if you can handle them. You will, in most of my operations, you do end up getting some AP ammo, but it's normally only like 225 bullets or so per squad. So if you have 4 AP mags and all of them are empty, don't be the guy to take every single AP bullet, work with your squad. However, for normal bullets, they are normally so in abundance that you could fill up 4 extended magazines and not even use half a box. Also, they normally ship down entire extra magazines, which you can use to transfer to your extended mags. Again, up to you. That is enough about the damage of this. Let's get into some more stats. M54C has an effective range of 7 tiles, meaning that after 7 tiles, the damage will start dropping off. So if I shoot this drone who is 7 tiles away with an unarmored bullet, a normal bullet, I'll do 44 damage. If I shoot this Xeno, this unarmored drone, who is 8 tiles away, my damage will start falling off. 9 tiles away, and then a literal edge of my screen horizontally, which is 10 tiles. We will examine the damage very quickly, just to showcase the drone that was 7 tiles away. We did the full 44 as mentioned. A drone that was just 1 extra tile away, we do lose almost 5 damage. It's 4.5. A extra tile away, we start losing significant damage. And at the edge of the screen, you start doing, you lose a solid like 25% of your damage, a little bit more, but you're still hurting them. Also, AP falls off in the same way, so it's not like AP has better range or anything. It's all tied to the gun's stats itself. If you have a scope or something like a 4 times or a 2 times, you would do slightly more damage at this range, so it can determine your playstyle, how much you want to shoot Xenos off screen. But if you generally see a Xeno at the edge of your screen, and you can reasonably see that they're hurt or close to death, it can be worth shooting at them. Otherwise, though, don't expect to kill them nearly as quick as one that is still visible on your screen. So that's a very, very nerded out everything you need to know about the stats of this gun. Let's talk attachments. So as mentioned, it has a folding stock and a grenade launcher. There are several other options that you can use for this weapon. There are generally 2 or 3 types of styles I see people go for. The magnetic harness is by far the most common option I see people put on pretty much any gun. The magnetic harness does not have any stat buffs. It hurts your accuracy a little bit, but that accuracy loss is completely unnoticeable. So what the mag harness does is it takes up your rail slot. So if we look at the attachment list here, it takes up that rail slot. As now, if I put it in my hand, I cannot lose this gun unless my armor is basically stripped off of me, aka I'm like dead and a medic's tending to me. If I fall over, crawl, it will immediately go on my back. If I get stunned, it'll go on my back. If I try to throw the gun, it'll go back on the suit slot here. So the only way to get this off is to take your armor off or to strip the mag harness off. This does take up the valuable rail slot. However, not losing your gun, I feel like, is probably the most important thing you can possibly do. So the mag harness is probably the #1 option, which can limit your abilities to make this gun a laser beam, but that's why RMC's attachments are so well designed, because you can't have it all. You can't have a gun you can't lose with utility with no recoil. You can't have a gun with everything. You're giving up something with each attachment, but you should try to fill in the slots where you can, which I'll go over. As mentioned, with the unfolded stock, we have 2 minimum, 15 degrees max. So for the rail slot, which competes with the magnetic harness, I feel like the only real good option, other than, like, scopes are kind of memey. They have a time and a place, but they're just not as useful as something like a reflex sight. This isn't a sniper, and it just doesn't do as good at range as, like, something like the battle rifle can. But the reflex sight reduces your degrees of scatter and gives you more multiplier accuracy, but the scatter is what we're interested in. So just slapping a reflex sight on this gun, and we aim it, or put 2 hands on it, with a unfolded stock with the reflex sight, we are now pinpoint accurate with no scatter. So that means we can sit here at a target at the edge of our screen, and all bullets are going to hit them with no deviation. Yes, we do not have a mag harness, but by using the reflex sight, we can then still have something like an underbarrel grenade launcher, or we can have something like a flashlight grip. The flashlight grip, we don't really care about the extra stats that it gives us. The accuracy, I guess, can be nice. But the flashlight grip, for example, if you don't care about having the underbarrel utility, this is a grip that produces a lot of light. It is a big AoE direction of light. So I've encased myself in a dark box. This is what the armor light looks like. It's really not bad. Like, the armor light does suffice, but the flashlight is a lot brighter. It's more clean lighting in a certain direction. It's not just based off the direction I'm looking. If you use both, you really light up an area, and this is a game where you don't like darkness. And also, another benefit of the flashlight light is that even if you were to, like, get devoured or something, or you have the gun knocked out of your hands, the light stays on, so I can, like, throw my gun and it'll act as light. So that's one option here, is that this is a laser beam weapon that provides light for you and your Marines. It's a bit more of a support option. However, if that is just not your thing and you want the mag harness, another option you could do is, if you run the light with the mag harness, we will unfortunately not quite have full accuracy with even with the grip. The grip just isn't as good as the reflex sight or even a normal vertical grip. Our maximum scatter is still high. We can tap fire it with complete accuracy, but as soon as we start spraying, we go back into that large scatter. But then we have the benefit of the light, and then of course, since it's the mag harness, we can't lose the gun, so that's always an option too. I have seen this specific combination run a few times, but it's not the most common one that I see. The vertical grip alone, so I don't have anything on the rail, just the underbarrel taken. The vertical grip with the unfolded stock alone will also give us basically the same effect as the reflex sight. So then I could slap the mag harness back on, you get the point. In this case, I will have a gun that's pinpoint accurate, no underbarrel utility, no light, but it's accurate and I can't lose the gun, so that's the trade-offs. So another option you can end up doing if you want utility, there's a lot of utility. We have the underbarrel shotgun, flamethrower, grenade launcher, and extinguisher. The extinguisher is probably the least valuable of these 4, because the extinguisher fits on most guns and you can just get a pocket extinguisher or something, or a normal fire extinguisher. But having the extinguisher all in one place can really help you put out flame pushes. I'm not going to cover the underbarrel extinguisher too much because it's really self-explanatory. So if I put on the underbarrel flamethrower, just for example, and I don't have any rail slot on, we have the bad accuracy again. We could then, at this point, put the reflex sight on for pinpoint accuracy, or the mag harness, and just accept that our gun's going to be a little bit inaccurate. However, we didn't talk about yet is the solid stock. Solid stock is like the folding stock, however, it leads even harder into having less scatter and a more accuracy multiplier and extra melee damage. This, though, means that it's going to be a larger size, which I really feel like is irrelevant in terms of assault rifles, because you can't, like, put it in its own holster or anything anyway. So with the solid stock and nothing else that affects our recoil or scatter, we can get down to that pinpoint accurate first shot. But even if we put something back on like the flashlight grip with this stock, we still unfortunately don't get full accuracy. The flashlight grip is just not nearly as good as the other options for reducing recoil, but then I could have the mag harness on with those two, and that's probably the best like utility options for light and having the mag harness. We could throw the reflex sight on, of course, and I could re-explain these things 1,000 times. The solid stock is probably the most popular option. I feel like that attachment is always taken out. The reason partially why is because of the melee damage, but again, if you aren't running the full recoil reducing attachments, it is just a straight upgrade over the folding stock, which only gives you -4 degrees of scatter, where the solid stock is significantly better in that regard. So, as mentioned, we were talking about the underbarrel flamethrower. The underbarrel flamethrower it requires two hands. If you press shift space with the underbarrel flamethrower, the furthest distance you can shoot this out is 5 tiles in front of you. Be careful. I'll just throw this in here. If you're running forward in flame, you will very, very easily set yourself on fire. This is a common thing I see Marines do. Don't move forward and shoot the flames, because you will become flames. Xenos really do not like flames. Even those that are immune to it, like Ravagers, don't like having their abilities crippled or having their healing reduced, or just straight up removed, actually. There are times where you'll be meleeing a resin door, and the door will open and a Xeno will pop out. Set them on fire. That will not only make it so they are burning, that will make it so they can't just reopen that door with impunity. As somebody who's played like 10-20 hours of Xeno now, flames are my worst enemy. I used to think getting point blank by a shotgun was my worst fear. No, being set on fire and unable to do anything until I sit there patting out the fire for a full minute sucks. I did not appreciate flames until I started playing Xeno more. An underbarrel flamethrower is terrifying, especially somebody who has a mag harness on one. You can knock them over. You can't even take the flamethrower away from them. It's just going to be right back out and having flames shot in your face immediately. And before we move on from the flamethrower, to reload the flamethrower, the underbarrel flamethrower, you can't actually tell how much fuel's in it until you're literally empty, so you just need to go to an incinerator tank, have it selected, which you can press shift space, by the way, to just toggle it on and off, and then you just left click an incinerator tank and it will refill it. Next we'll move into the underbarrel shotgun. This can be reloaded the same exact way as incinerator tank, but you could put buckshot in your offhand and press C to reload it, or just click the gun. Same thing as the flamethrower, you have to have two hands on it, shift space to select it, and now you're able to fire a shotgun shell. There are 5 shells in this. The primary usage for the underbarrel shotgun is for destroying resin doors. This will one-shot even thick resin doors from a decent range. Like I'm 3 tiles away and it will one-shot that door. You don't have to pump it or anything. It is semi-auto. The damage of the underbarrel shotgun is not amazing. Even if I like shoot a Xeno that's pretty close, I'm not doing that much damage. However, as you noticed, it can stun them. So if I can point blank it with this, it will stun it temporarily. And if you're fast, you can swap just by pressing shift space and dump it with normal bullets. So small Xenos, you can get a quick stun off. This can help save you from like a runner or something, or just get some free damage in. Losing access to your controls for even a second as a Xeno is really disorienting and will definitely get Xenos killed. But the shotgun is more of a breaching tool for doors. It's not really all that useful for anything else other than doors, but there's a lot of resin doors in your way, and having to melee them 3 times is a lot slower than shooting them from a safe range. You can stand farther away than a parasite can actually leap on you from a door, so you can break doors safely, and you might even end up killing the parasite in the process. Finally, we have the underbarrel grenade launcher, which is the default attachment that comes with the MK2. This is a grenade launcher that will spawn with no grenades in it. You, again, push shift space to use it. You have to have 2 hands to actually launch it. But to first actually load it, this confused the hell out of me, you have to press space to open the breach, and then you can put in like any type of grenade. So even the more specialized grenades that have to be shot of a grenade launcher, like a star shell, can be put in there. Star shells are for light. You can put in incin grenades, airburst grenades, frag grenades, whatever you want to have to get access to, that's up to you. You can spend your points, go to rec, find the grenades. It does not matter. I would just recommend that you don't mix match the tube, because I have seen accidents where people forgot what grenade was in it, or want to shoot a specific grenade at the right time and just forgot. Unless you're doing something like your top shell is always a star shell, then your bottom 2 are an instant, something you can easily remember. That's up to you, but if you have better memory than me, I'm sure it's fine. To actually shoot this, you then pick it back up in your hand, or if it's already in your hand, you just press space to close the breech. The sprite is very subtle. It's hard to tell if the breech is open without actually physically looking at the gun. Honestly, without dropping it, it's hard to tell for me, especially in like a larger monitor. I feel like it's just so hard to tell, and that's why I don't like the grenade launcher, because it feels clunky to me. But then you press Z to hand it, and then you just shoot the shell. This has the advantage of, I crashed my game. This has the advantage of it basically turns all grenades into impact grenades, so this can really, really surprise Xenos when a grenade blows up on their face or sets them on fire, or like instant grenades strip armor, so Xenos, like defenders that are fortified, shoot a grenade under their feet, burn them out, that type of thing. My game rudely crashed and ruined my beautiful setup. We finished basically all the attachments, but what about the barrel slot? Well, I feel like there's really only one logical option for the barrel slot of most guns, and that's the bayonet. You can put something like the extended barrel on it, which gives you better velocity, but the velocity of the MK2 is already really good, and the extra accuracy is completely unnecessary. The suppressor sounds cool, so if you don't really care about meleeing things with your gun, you can always do that. A MK2 with the folding stock will have +5 melee damage, and the MK2 with the solid stock has +10. If you put a solid stock on a MK2 with the bayonet, it does identical damage as a machete, meaning that if you have like a mag harness MK2 with this loadout, you can basically have an undroppable machete, which is fantastic. There is a lot of melee that happens in this game. If you have an MK2 with just a normal stock and a bayonet, well, you are still doing more melee damage than just a bayonet, but not as much as the machete. So there are always these good situations. In most cases, there's not a whole lot of difference for having extra melee damage, but there are multiple types of resin walls and doors. There are, for example, the normal resin doors and thick resin doors. There are normal resin walls and thick resin walls. So, before I get ahead of myself, here are normal resin doors with all three compared. So this is a folding stock bayoneted MK2. It will 3-hit a resin door. A MK2 with the solid stock and bayonet still 3 hits it, so there's actually no difference between these. So that also means, again, the machete does the same exact damage as this one, so I don't need to re-showcase everything. And just to be extra thorough here, a normal bayonet, even against a normal resin door, also will 3-hit it. So there is no actual benefit to whatever loadout you have here for normal resin doors. However, this changes with thick resin doors, which are very common, especially if there's more than one Hive Lord. You're going to see a ton of these. So we are testing the bayoneted folding stock against a thick resin door. It will do 4 hits. A bayonet against a thick resin door goes up to 5, so that's already time saving. I collapsed the other door. And then, of course, we have the machete damage with the solid stock bayonet will actually also 4-hit a thick resin door. So, again, not a whole lot of difference between these two. The folding stock bayonet against a resin wall will take 4 hits. A bayonet against a normal resin wall take 5 hits. So, already a nice difference there. And the solid stock bayonet against a resin wall will also take 4. And then finally, we have the thick resin wall. We'll just keep it in order. The folding stock bayonet against thick resin is 6. Normal bayonet seven. And finally 5. So against thick resin walls is the most noticeable difference, saving up to 2 slashes without having a bayoneted weapon at all, versus even just saving 1 slash can let you cut through an entire area several seconds faster to up to several minutes faster, depending on how many people are chopping. Saving time on this is really important. Being able to one-shot weeds, including like even the thick weeds, is very useful. So I feel like this is already a really overly extensive guide and deep dive on the MK2. Hopefully you learned something here. I'm not even going to tell you which of these to use. I believe that is best up for you as well. I didn't even cover the rail flashlight. Like, you can have the rail flashlight take up the rail slot if you don't care about the mag harness, and then you can then have the grip for full accuracy, or then the underbarrel for utility, but a less accurate gun. Totally up to you. Best for you to figure it out. Some of these attachments are more common than others. You can always go to rec, though. They pretty much will have a copy of something. The mag harness might be the one thing you don't get access to, because I have seen rec run out of those, but then you can just use some other type of loadout or build that works best for you. If you're still here at this point, if you ever drop your gun, get knocked over or stunned, just press R and it will pick it up back in your hand. I picked up the other one because I dropped it. R just picks up the last things that you interacted with. That is one way to hopefully not lose your gun. But if you're dead without a mag harness and you drop your gun, it's totally up to fate. Thank you for watching.